Hi there, I'm Mark from High Level Listening, and in this post I'm going to show you 3 Part 2 IELTS Speaking Test examples. I'm planning on uploading new IELTS examples from either Part 1, 2 or 3 each week, and the questions that I'll answer will be some of the latest and most up-to-date questions that I can find with the resources that I have. As well as the answers themselves, I'll also show you a technique and the technique that I'm applying behind each answer as well, so you can try to use the same strategy when you take your test. If you're looking for professional or personalized IELTS guidance, you can check out our IELTS Speaking Test correction service. There'll be a link to that service at the end of this video. But for now, here are 3 high-band Part 2 example answers. Good luck. All these Part 2 examples will follow the past, describe and future structure. If you signed up with me for the free IELTS mini course, you might already know about this technique, and there's a link for that on this page as well. But to summarize, all my answers are roughly divided into 3 main sections. They begin in the past, then describe, and then finish in the future. All of the answers in this video will be divided into these 3 main sections as well, so you can see this technique in action. I'm using this technique for several good reasons. First, it's really straightforward and really reliable. If you follow this structure, it's really easy to stay on track, so you won't get lost and you'll always know what kind of sentence you need to be making and what you need to be saying next as well. On top of that, this strategy also makes your 60-second note preparation much simpler and more effective, because now you can include specific grammar sentences, not just vocab and ideas. Secondly, I think this strategy gives you the most opportunities to score grammar points. You can start in the past with sentences like "I'd never been," or "I had always wanted to go," or "I'd been thinking about visiting." So you can score high band grammar points very early on. Then you can move on to the next step of your answer and use strong adjectives and expressions to score points for your lexical resource. In this example, it says fantastic restaurants and mouth-watering food, both of which would score you more points. Finally, the future gives you another opportunity to demonstrate your skills with future tenses. "I can't wait to go back," "I would love to go again," "I'm looking forward to," are all good phrases you can use. You've only got 2 minutes to speak, so I think this is the best way to show off as many different language skills as you can in that time period. Hence why I think this is probably the best strategy to use if you're aiming for a band 7 or higher. Finally, this story and this structure creates a really natural storytelling arc, which makes it really easy for the examiner to follow. As you'll see in this video, you can apply this strategy to any kind of Part 2 question. Just remember to start in the past, describe in the middle, and finish in the future. Question 1 in this post is describe an occasion when you received good service from a shop. On this slide you can see how I've used the past, describe and future method to make my notes in my 60 seconds. You can see how I've made grammar specific notes next to each part. This means that I don't have to convert the sentence in my head while I'm giving my answer. It's already ready to go and I can feel confident that I'm going to score points for that grammar as well. Here in Chiang Mai, I ride a bicycle everywhere, and actually the shop where I bought my bike has always provided wonderful customer service, so I'd like to talk about that place. When I arrived in Thailand, I wanted a cheap and healthy way to get around the city, so buying a bicycle seemed like the perfect idea from the moment I landed. We looked up some bike shops online beforehand, and we ended up picking a place called Cacti, which was nearby. Once we headed down there, we met the lovely shopkeeper who owns the place. He recommended a bike for us, and despite the fact that they were a little bit more expensive than we expected, it was worth it for the maintenance checkup he did for us, completely free of charge. He made sure that everything was working smoothly. He even let us test ride our bikes up and down the street before we agreed to buy it. He was always very upfront and honest with us from the very first moment we arrived. He told us about the pros and cons of each bike we had in the shop, so I never thought for a moment that we were being taken advantage of or ripped off. In fact, because he knew all of the strengths and weaknesses of the bike, he tuned up those parts especially, so the bike was in the best shape possible. I don't think many other stores would have given us the same level of service. So I'm still really happy with my bike, and because of his honesty and his great service, I'll keep going back to him regularly to make sure that everything's as. If I ever have a problem with my bike, he's my first choice, although hopefully I won't need to see him that often. Here's question 2. Describe an occasion when you arrived early. Again, you can see my 60-second notes at the bottom of the slide, and you can see how they're divided up into past, describe, and future again. So I'm used to arriving at the airport 2 hours before international flights, but one time I arrived far too early was when I was flying from Heathrow to Incheon in South Korea. When I checked my flight details, I could have sworn my flight departed at 4 in the afternoon, but after I arrived at the terminal and looked for my check-in counter, I realized I was about 4 hours early instead of just 2. I think I must have gotten 1600 and 6 o'clock mixed up in my head, even though I thought I'd double-checked it. So because I'd shown up well in advance, I had quite a bit of time to kill. Luckily, Heathrow is a massive airport, so there were plenty of things for me to see and do. I ended up having a few cups of coffee and wandering around the shops. Even though Heathrow is a huge facility, I was pretty bored after about 30 minutes, and the time really dragged. I read for a while and sent my friends a few Facebook messages until my check-in counter finally opened up and I could check my big suitcase and head through security. In the end, it was quite fortunate that I arrived so early because there was a huge line for security. I think the airport was missing a few members of staff that day, and I was in the queue for about 45 minutes. I think it was a bit of a blessing in disguise. If I hadn't arrived so early, I think I would have been panicking about making it to my gate in time. Eventually, I made it through and only had to wait around for about 45 minutes. I had enough time to buy some snacks and drinks to stock up for the long flight ahead. Next time, I think I'll triple check my flight details before I head out. That said, it's probably better to be too early for a flight than too late, so I suppose it could have been worse. Question 3 is describe a TV drama series that you like. At the bottom, you can see the show that I've picked and the notes that I've made. I'm not a huge TV watcher. In fact, apart from sports, these days I only watch shows and videos online, like on Netflix or on YouTube. That said, one drama show that really grabbed me was a Netflix drama show called Narcos. My girlfriend introduced it to me as she's a big fan of Netflix and she knew it was the kind of show that I would be really into. It's a crime drama show set in Colombia in the 1990s, based on the true stories of Pablo Escobar, who was an infamous Colombian drug kingpin. So naturally, Pablo is one of the main characters in the show, along with his gang and some American agents, the local police, and the Colombian president as well. It's quite a huge cast, and every character is unique and really memorable. The storyline is very gritty and violent. There's a lot of action, chases, backstabbing and blood in virtually every episode. Besides the action and the drama, I really like it because it's a true story and you actually learn a lot about the actual conflict as you watch. Actually, because the storyline is so bloody, you can't really get attached to any of the characters because you never know if they'll survive the episode. It makes each episode really gripping and tense, and you get the feeling that no one is safe. Another thing I like is that despite the fact it's an American-made show, the majority of the series is in Spanish, so as you watch you can pick up a few new words here and there, and it makes the show feel very authentic as well. Personally, I think I also pay attention more when I have to read the subtitles, otherwise I won't understand what's going on. I've watched the first 2 seasons so far, and I'm really looking forward to the third one. I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I'll watch it as soon as it's released.